In the heart of the busy John F. Kennedy International Airport, a black family makes their way through the bustling terminal with a quiet sort of confidence. There's Michael, calm and steady, his wife Erica walking beside him with a gentle but purposeful stride, and their little son, Marcus, clutching his toy airplane with both hands. They don't stand out because they're flashy or loud. They stand out because they take up space naturally, moving together like they belong right where they are. Still, their presence draws a lot of attention. Some people look over with innocent curiosity, others glance briefly before looking away, and a few let their gaze linger a bit too long, their faces impossible to read. As the family approaches the priority boarding gate, a mixture of excitement and nerves settles in the air. Everyone around them seems to move with purpose, double-checking passports and shuffling luggage. But to Michael, each step feels more significant. Walking through these polished halls, even among all this luxury and order, he can't ignore the reminder that real respect isn't always part of the price. Erica holds her head high and flashes a steady smile at Marcus, but there's a watchfulness in her eyes. Marcus, on the other hand, is completely in his own happy world, skipping along, completely unaware of any tension or second thoughts moving across the faces nearby. Up in first class, Linda, the lead flight attendant, stands near the entrance, with her arms folded. She watches Michael, Erica, and Marcus step inside, and for a split second, her posture stiffens a little more. Linda has been doing this job for nearly 15 years, and she prides herself on reading people and knowing how to make every traveler feel comfortable. But now, in this moment, she finds herself reacting in a way she doesn't even fully notice. There's something about the family, something she can't quite name, though if she actually thought about it, she might realize it's the kind of bias that runs deeper than she wants to admit. The other passengers in first class get the usual friendly greeting and a warm smile as they store their bags and settle in. But Michael and Erica receive only a distant nod, and Linda, quickly, turns her attention to the open cupboards. There's no welcome aboard or offer of help, nothing that acknowledges them as guests like anyone else. The silence around their seats feels especially thick, as if everyone can sense the gap. Marcus climbs up onto his seat, his excitement still strong, but Michael and Erica trade a quiet glance. Without a single word, it's obvious to them that not everyone in this cabin is really treated the same. Michael leads his family to their seats, moving with the calm assurance of someone who has flown first class more times than he can remember. He slides their carry-on into the overhead bin, helps Erica with her bag, and offers Marcus his stuffed penguin to hold for takeoff. Erica settles Marcus next to the window, brushing a loose strand of hair from her son's forehead. She tries to keep things cheerful, pointing out the busy runway outside and whispering little jokes to Marcus. On the surface, she seems unbothered, but inside she feels the stares, some quick, some lingering, all of them heavy in their own way. Just as they begin to get comfortable, Linda strides down the aisle, holding a tablet in one hand. She stops at Michael's row, her face expressionless, and asks, much more formally than she did with the other passengers, to see their boarding passes. Her voice is polite, but distant, as if she's following an invisible rule made only for them. Michael calmly hands over all 3 tickets. Linda scans them, glances at Marcus and then back at the parents, her tone never softening. No one else in the cabin is subjected to this double check, and the message is clear without a word spoken. In that moment, dignity feels like something to protect, not something to assume. Even after Linda finishes checking their boarding passes, she hesitates. Instead of moving on like she did with everyone else, she pulls out her radio and steps to the side, calling down to the ground staff for a double check. She doesn't explain why, just says it in a flat voice, loud enough for the nearby passengers to hear. The unspoken accusation, the sense that they need extra vetting, hangs in the air. Michael and Erica both understand exactly what's happening, even if no one names it out loud. Other travelers glance over, pretending not to watch, but their curiosity is written plain across their faces. Erica, feeling the knot tighten in her stomach, quietly reaches for Michael's hand under the small armrest between their seats. She squeezes his palm, grounding herself as much as seeking comfort. Michael keeps his face calm, his eyes steady but now colder, sharper, a practiced response that tells Erica all she needs to know. This isn't new to him. He's been through situations like this before. He doesn't say a word, but his jaw clenches just a little. Marcus, noticing the long pause but not understanding why, starts asking questions about the snack menu, trying to bring a sense of normalcy. All the while, the atmosphere keeps growing heavier, and the unfairness of it all settles over the family like a thick blanket. In the galley, far from the eyes of the passengers, Linda tries to justify her actions to herself. She paces by the coffee maker, running over everything in her head. She repeats the idea that she is just following instructions, sticking to company protocol. But as she listens to herself, the reasoning sounds thin. Soon, her earpiece crackles, and the ground staff responds with the facts. All 3 tickets are valid. The reservation has been on file for almost 2 months, and there is no issue with the booking at all. Everything checks out just as it should. Linda stands still for a second, stomach turning a bit. She realizes she can't actually blame any system or guideline for what just happened. The doubt creeps in more sharply now, picking at the edges of her confidence. But instead of simply returning to apologize or easing the discomfort she created, her pride holds her back. The idea of admitting to a mistake, especially one that is difficult to explain, fills her with worry about what her co-workers might think. So with her emotions in a tight knot, Linda decides to act as if nothing unusual has taken place, convincing herself that moving forward is easier than facing her own judgment. When Linda returns to the cabin, her expression is set, and she stands a little straighter, trying to hide any sign of doubt. She stops by Michael, Erica, and Marcus in front of everyone, making no effort to lower her voice. She tells them, "For precautionary reasons, we'll need you to move to economy class while we sort out a technical error with your booking." The announcement is so public and sudden that every head in first class turns toward the family. There is no room for a quiet word, no chance to step aside for a private conversation. The message lands hard, stripping away any sense of dignity they had built for themselves in these seats. Michael takes a slow breath, his face still, but his eyes sharp as he meets Linda's stare. "Oh, what's the exact reason for this?" he asks, his tone even but steady, refusing to stand or move. "I need a clear explanation, not just a precaution." The moment stretches for a while. Linda's silence says more than any words might, but she stands her ground, insisting that it's out of her hands. Erica holds Marcus close, and the silence in the cabin grows heavier. Passengers all around shift uneasily, their earlier judgments about a seating mix-up replaced by a growing feeling that they're now witnessing something with much deeper roots, something as old as the country itself. The commotion is impossible to ignore. Passengers nearby start whispering to each other, some stealing glances and others openly watching. A few faces, marked by frowns or pinched brows, make no secret of their discomfort with what is happening. One middle-aged woman across the aisle shakes her head, muttering something to her husband about how unfair this seems. Yet for every person who quietly objects or looks upset, there are many who choose to stay silent, letting their eyes drop to newspapers or phones, as if ignoring the scene will make it disappear. The quiet in the row grows loud in its own way. Marcus, picking up on the tension, even though he is just a kid, tugs on Erica's sleeve. "Mum, why are they asking us to leave? Did we do something wrong?" His voice is uncertain, not knowing how to make sense of what he sees. Erica turns to him, smoothing his hair back and pulling him close. She smiles gently, leaning in to keep her answer private but honest. No, babe, you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes people just don't know how to treat everyone right. It's not about us, it's about them. Her words hang in the air, calm but true, and Marcus nods, still confused but trusting his mother's comfort. In the galley, tucked away from curious eyes and hushed voices, Michael finds Linda filling out a report at the counter. He approaches calmly, his voice steady, but every word clear and deliberate. He does not need to raise his tone. The seriousness in his eyes does all the work. Michael looks Linda straight in the face and asks the question that has been sitting heavy between them since the moment she first stopped at their row. Is this really just about procedure? Or was there something else behind your decision? His stare doesn't leave room for sidestepping. If there is any hint of an excuse, he will hear it for what it is. Linda, caught in the small, bright space between the coffee pot and the door, feels backed against the wall. She starts to explain herself, talking about guidelines and company expectations, but her words tumble out thin and weak. The explanations echo in her mind and do not ring true. Excuses meant to fill a silence she can no longer ignore. For the first time, she feels the full weight of what she's done, realizing she is facing someone who has seen these things before, someone who understands the rules and the ways people use them. The discomfort settles in, deeper than she expected. After the tense exchange in the galley, Michael takes out his phone. He dials a number he knows by heart, moving with quiet purpose. Keeping his voice low so as not to draw attention from the crew bustling nearby, he says only, "Now is the right time. Please proceed." He hangs up just as calmly as he dialed, sliding the phone into his jacket pocket. To anyone watching, it would seem like an ordinary call, maybe work or family. But for Michael, this was the moment he had been waiting for. A signal to set in motion steps he'd carefully prepared for just such a situation. Returning to the cabin, Michael rejoins Erica and Marcus. Their faces are tight but determined, and Marcus quietly squeezes his father's hand. Around them, the mood has shifted. Passengers who only moments ago tried to look the other way can no longer ignore the charged atmosphere. Some start whispering louder, piecing together fragments of what has happened. A few take out their phones, maybe to film or send a message. As curiosity turns to concern, even the most indifferent travelers sense that something important is unfolding right in front of them, something that might end up reaching far beyond the seats of this plane. Up front in the cockpit, Captain Williams is settling in for the second half of the flight when the private line on his comm panel lights up. He listens, nodding as the caller identifies themselves from the main office at American Meridian Airlines. The voice is firm and direct. They explain that there is a primary shareholder of the company flying in first class and remind him that no decisions about seat changes or passenger handling should be made without explicit instructions from senior management. The captain responds with a quiet, "Understood, sir," his tone all business, then ends the call with a click. Word travels with surprising speed through the crew. By the time Captain Williams finishes making some careful notes, Linda in the cabin is already hearing about the call. At first, she cannot quite believe it. Her stomach drops, and there is a faint ringing in her ears. It is as if the whole balance of power has shifted in an instant. The action she had carried out, convinced it was just routine, is now completely outside her control. A new wave of anxiety grows inside her. No longer in charge, Linda feels the eyes of the entire team on her, all waiting to see what will happen next. As the process of moving the Johnson family to economy class begins, the mood in first class turns almost painfully quiet. Each passenger seems to hold their breath, watching the scene unfold with a mixture of disbelief and discomfort. There are no jokes, no idle chatter, only the hush of people trying to work out what this really means. The act is simple. A few dags gathered, a small family standing and walking down the aisle led by Linda, but the message behind it rings louder than words. What was once handled under a veil of procedure has now become a kind of show, putting the injustice out in the open for everyone to see. Michael does not say a word as he leads Erica and Marcus toward the narrow aisle separating first class from the rest of the plane. His back is straight and every step is measured. Marcus clings to his mother, glancing up with worry and confusion. Erica keeps her voice low, comforting him the best she can. Michael's silence is not surrender. It is deliberate. He knows when to speak and when it is better to wait. The real argument, he decides, will not happen in this cabin. There are larger stages for this fight, ones with bigger consequences and now a growing audience. Back in the galley, as the last echoes of the family's move ripple through the plane, Linda leans against the counter and lets out a shaky breath. Beside her is her colleague, Sarah, who has always reminded her to think twice before acting too quickly. Linda's hands tremble as she tries to organize the service trays, the guilt settling heavier with every passing second. Her voice cracks when she speaks, trying to piece together some logic for what she had done. "Maybe I was just following the rules," she whispers, though even she knows how weak that sounds now. Sarah does not move to comfort her. She stands quietly, her gaze unwavering, and after a moment she says in a flat tone, "It wasn't the rules, Linda. It was about your judgment today." That truth lands hard in the tight galley space. Linda drops her gaze, searching for something, anything to say. But there is nothing that would make things right in this moment. Neither woman fills the silence with more excuses. The quiet is thick with unspoken lessons, old warnings that feel more real than ever. All around, the hum of the airplane continues, but for these two, the weight of what happened lingers, impossible to ignore any longer. As the plane starts its descent over Chicago, the skyline just starting to peek through the clouds, a different kind of turbulence is already making waves on the ground. Word of what happened in the air reaches the American Meridian Airlines headquarters before the wheels even touch down. Several top executives have caught wind of the incident, texts and messages flying among them faster than the jumbo jet itself. By the time the passengers are lining up for the exit, a conference room on the 40th floor is filling up for an emergency meeting. Inside, the mood is tense. People shuffle papers and check their phones for updates. There is a real air of urgency. Reputation is everything, and news of a primary shareholder being publicly removed from first class is a headache that no airline wants. A formal statement is drafted within the hour, going out to media outlets and posted on social platforms. It promises a full investigation, a direct apology to Michael Johnson and his family, and a swift review of company procedures. What began as an uncomfortable scene in the skies has already grown into a symbol for deeper issues that the airline must now address head-on. This is no longer just about one decision made on a flight. It has become a matter for the whole company to confront. Stepping off the plane and into the bright chaos of O'Hare's main terminal, Michael, Erica, and Marcus find themselves approached by a small group of people in dark suits bearing the American Meridian logo. There is no fanfare to this greeting. Instead, the family gets awkward nods and a quiet, "We're sorry for your experience." The suits try to keep it professional, but it is plain from their faces that the airline knows it has some explaining to do. Michael holds Erica's hand, and she gives Marcus a reassuring smile. For a moment, no one says much. The whole group is aware that this is not just a routine arrival anymore. Something in the air has shifted, and it is clear to everyone that the company cannot sweep it under the rug. Elsewhere in the airport, Linda is waiting, her hands clasped tightly, still replaying every moment from the flight. Her name had been called over the intercom just after landing. Now she's led through a maze of doors to a room with a long table and a few stern faces waiting for her. There is no hiding behind official words or airline rules now. For the first time, Linda feels the full weight of what she has done, knowing that excuses will not change the outcome. Inside the glass-walled interview room, Linda sits across from a group of people she's only seen in training videos. They introduce themselves, someone from human resources, another from legal, and a manager she vaguely recognizes from company emails. The questions start off official and careful. What were the events that led up to the family's removal? Did she consult protocol? Did she receive outside pressure? Linda listens quietly and answers in a low voice. After a few minutes, her words become slower, and she finally admits, almost in a whisper, that she acted on a gut feeling that the Johnsons simply did not fit the image of first-class passengers. The silence that follows is sharp and heavy. The investigators take notes, and Linda realizes there is no way back from that confession. By the time the meeting ends, it is clear to everyone that the issue runs deeper than just Linda's choices. The legal advisor points out this is not the first time something similar has happened. American Meridian spokesperson scribbles down a note about upcoming policy reviews. The whole company now faces pressure to do more. The case quickly moves beyond one person's mistake, forcing leadership to look hard at old habits and assumptions. For the first time in years, deep change seems not only possible, but necessary. Almost as soon as the story breaks, social media lights up. People start sharing their own experiences and opinions, tagging American Meridian Airlines with hashtags like Justice for the Johnsons and Fly Fairly. Users post screenshots of the company's public statement, critiquing its carefully crafted language and demanding more than just a standard apology. Big voices in civil rights groups join in, calling out the airline for not catching the warning signs sooner. There is a real sense from the public that half measures will not be accepted this time. Folks want action, not just words. With each hour, the pressure grows, not just for American Meridian, but for every other major airline based in the United States. Industry leaders hold hasty meetings, worrying that similar incidents will surface in their own fleets. Some companies announce quick reviews of their in-flight protocols, while others quietly call their public relations teams for crisis plans, just in case. Boardrooms that last week felt in control are now full of concern, especially as news outlets run segments about discrimination in air travel. The threat of being called out next by an unforgiving crowd keeps every executive on their toes. Change, it seems, is no longer just an option. It's the new expectation. Over in a quiet corner office on the north side of Chicago, Michael sits behind his desk, the warm summer sun spilling through the window. He scrolls through news stories and social posts, watching as the story he lived just hours ago sweeps across the country. Despite the noise and the opinions swirling everywhere, he is calm. Michael has seen enough public crises before to know that sometimes letting things breathe is more powerful than rushing out to shout back at critics. His phone buzzes non-stop with messages and calls, but he lets most of them go unanswered for now. There will be time for statements, he thinks, but real change does not start with viral clips or press quotes. That evening, as Erica steps quietly into the office, Michael looks up with a tired smile. She asks him what he wants to do if the company reaches out, or if the cameras keep following their family. He leans back in his chair, thinking for a moment, then says simply that he is not interested in payback. What matters to him is making sure no one else has to face the same treatment they did. If this whole thing leads to honest change and a better way forward, that will be enough for him. A few days after the uproar, American Meridian Airlines calls a major press conference at their headquarters in downtown Chicago. The whole event is streamed live, with dozens of cameras capturing every word as the CEO takes the podium. This time, there is no avoiding the hard truth. The company openly admits its mistake, saying clearly that what happened to the Johnson family never should have occurred. There is no attempt to soften the blow or shift the blame. Instead, the CEO lays out a series of solid reforms: mandatory training for every staff member, independent reviews of passenger complaints, a dedicated hotline for reporting bias, and regular public reporting on progress. The official apology is read in full. It is direct, clear, and makes it obvious that change will not be just a promise, but a priority. Far from the cameras, Linda sits on her couch in her modest apartment, watching the broadcast on her television. As she listens, she hears the weight of what the company is finally admitting and feels it settle deep in her chest. Her own name is never brought up, but the story is all too familiar. Linda knows that what happened on that flight has grown into something beyond any one person or mistake. It is now woven into a much bigger conversation, one that will shape how thousands are treated in the future. Several months pass, and as summer fades into fall, the Johnson family finds themselves back at O'Hare, preparing to board the same route as they did once before. This time, things feel very different. As they check in, staff greet them warmly and by name, offering genuine smiles instead of forced politeness. When they reach the gate, there is no tension, just simple kindness. Marcus grins when one of the flight attendants kneels down to give him a set of wings, saying, "We're glad to have you flying with us again." Throughout the boarding process, there are no sideways glances or stares of suspicion. Instead, they see nods and welcoming words from fellow passengers and crew alike. For Michael and Erica, it is clear that their family is seen as equals here, and that makes the journey lighter this time. The small things, the easy conversations, the respectful treatment, mean everything. There is a sense that the company and its staff have learned and are intent on showing it. Elsewhere in Chicago, Linda sits in a classroom with a dozen other employees from different companies, participating in a workshop about structural prejudice. She takes careful notes, listening with real intention. Later, she writes a long, heartfelt email to the Johnsons. In it, Linda admits her mistakes and promises to hold herself to higher standards. This time, her words come from a place of honesty, not formality. The changes at American Meridian Airlines do not just stop with one family or one company. News about their turnaround travels quickly through the business world, and before long, other airlines start putting similar training and clear reporting channels in place. The story of what happened with the Johnson family and how American Meridian responded becomes a must-know case study at big industry conferences. Leaders from all over the country use it in their seminars and workshops on fairness and equity, eager to show their own teams that being proactive about inclusion is no longer optional. Human resources teams rewrite their onboarding materials, and trainers develop new sessions that focus on respect in every interaction. What began as a single embarrassing headline slowly shapes real changes in daily routines and decision-making all across the field. Back in their apartment on the south side of Chicago, Michael sits on the couch with Erica and Marcus. The world outside still has flaws, and stories of injustice are far from gone, but things feel more hopeful now. The three sit together, grateful for small steps in the right direction. Michael knows the fight for dignity and equality does not end here, but he feels proud that their family's experience became the spark for a new chapter, one defined by respect, belonging, and genuine care for everyone, no matter who they are.